And once again, welcome to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me this morning is Consul General Mackie Holder from Barbados to New York. And he's here to discuss some business that will be going on this weekend in Boston and what plans we have for Barbados in the future. Sir, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here, as always.
Thank you. So, Mr. Holder, we know that there is a meeting coming here to Boston, I think it's on the 2nd of November, which engages in Barbadians here, investing back into Barbados. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, it's not only for Barbadians.
Okay.
For countries like Barbados to progress, we need to have investments beyond our diaspora. As you know, we're a very small nation.
That's correct.
So the business session in Boston, which is, as you said, on Saturday, next Saturday, at Freedom House in Dorchester, at 11 o'clock, is really a session to post-COVID, hopefully post-COVID, I should say. Right. As we're emerging from COVID, is how I should properly put it.
Yes.
To reacquaint persons, Barbadians, friends of Barbados, young business people looking for opportunities, and hopefully we can tag someone with millions, but to just reacquaint them as to what the situation is in Barbados now, economically and otherwise, the environment for investments. And we will also be focusing on tourism. We'll be bringing up our head of our BTMI, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. Mm-hmm. So tourism, as you know, is our main economic driver. So we'll be discussing that as well as investments.
Absolutely.
And all are welcome to come.
Exactly. One of the things I love about Barbados, and considering there's no large industry, we are not a big commercialized industrial nation. We solely depend on tourism, probably a little bit of sugar that we grow, maybe cotton, so forth. For so many years, we were able to maintain a very stable economy, a good dollar value, and we were at one point considered the #1 developing nation in the world. And I think
that is still true.
Exactly. And I think it's vitally important that if any investors looking to go abroad, and it's okay to go to China and Indonesia and India and those other countries where they can exploit labor and so forth. But considering Barbados is so centralized and so close to America, and the dollar is very strong, the pay wages are moderate, I think it's only affordable that companies should think strongly about going to Barbados and setting up their business structure. And I'm sure there probably are tax exemptions by the government for companies who come there and set up businesses. I don't know, but that may be a possibility. I thought it was like that before. And that should bring also an interest to the world at large, not just America, but Canada or any other country. And I think that Barbados should make this one of their first and foremost pivotal goals in the future, that we look at launching out into well-developed nations and those companies who are looking to invest, rather than going to China and these other long countries where there's not so costly, yes, but in terms where you gain in one area, loss in the next in terms of shipping and so forth. Why not just go there to the Barbados territories or even there in the Caribbean if necessary?
What I will say, Errol, is that all things considered, there are few places overall as good as Barbados to live in. to work in and to invest in. We have a storied history of stability, both economically and governmentally.
Yes.
Our dollar is pegged to the US dollar at 2 to 1, 2
Yes.
Barbados dollars to 1 US dollar. But we have strong regulatory framework, and these things are important these days if you consider what is happening in the organization of the OECD, which quote regulates investments in developing countries, I should say. And they're depending on which area you wish to invest in. There are always tax concessions, various inducements, which every country has actually. Every state in America has them to induce you to come to Barbados. There are a number of companies. We're very strong on international business. There are over 2,000 international business companies registered in Barbados. But we're also the home for a few international companies. Probably the best known is Gildan. I don't know if you wear T-shirts, but if you do, it's probably a Gildan T-shirt. Yes. Gildan is the largest supplier in the world of cotton T-shirts. And that is headquartered in Barbados. The owner actually lives in Barbados, in the good parish of St. Peter.
That's good.
Which is also my
parish where you came from also.
Yes. And then we have a number of niche industries. One of the storied ones as well is Lens Tech, which produces eye lenses. And that has been operating for a number of years and export all over the world. So if you're looking for things that are important, connectivity, internet stability, a well-educated and competent workforce, the range of support, professional service, accountants, lawyers, tax lawyers, and the whole gamut of things you'll find in Barbados. And of course, there is no better place climatically, socially to be than in Barbados. So we have been getting a lot of interest still, even during the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic would have stopped, everything. So we are hoping to, as I say, kickstart, renew the interest. There are a range of tourism products that are there to invest in. We're looking to transform Barbados for the next 50 years, for the next generation. And there are a range of other things happening in Barbados as well. But overall, I don't think that the whole basket of what you can get from investing in Barbados is certainly in the region not matched at all. So we're going to acquaint Bostonians of what is happening. The Prime Minister just delivered the budget, and hopefully they can come down and take advantage of, I think the overall tax rate for corporations is now 5% and can easily go down to 0% depending on your growth arc. But there's a lot to learn about Barbados and a lot to invest in Barbados as well.
Yes, I noticed though, over the past years, when I was there, I was into trade, and I found that taxes on luxury commodities were very high, and even some palatable items also were high. What framework is put in place to reduce taxes on some imported goods into the country? Because I think from experience, that had stagnated a lot of young people with entrepreneurial skills who want to import items into the country and was faced with taxes. And I think if a foreign investor want to do likewise and bring commodities to the country and faced with high taxes, and I understand the reason for high taxes because there has to be a way of keeping revenue into the country. And if it comes through taxes, well, then that's the way it has to go. But is there, I mean, this was many years ago. This is more than 2 decades ago.
I should interrupt you there, Errol, and say that you're speaking of a long time ago.
Right.
I think in December 2019, it was enacted. It came into force early in 2020. Barbados collapsed about 20 different taxes into one across the board tax, which I just mentioned earlier, which is levied at about 5% on corporations. So there has been a lot of flattening of the number of taxes. It is easier to do business on Barbados. Is in the process of setting up online one-stop shops and so on to facilitate a lot of application forms, payments, and transactions, especially with government entities online, and make it easier. So what you're speaking about is quite some time ago. But I should also say that a lot depends on what you're trying to import. Some people think that importing commodities and barrels and so on and so forth is the kind of business that we're looking at. We're looking at business that have add-on value for Barbados and Barbadians, employment generating businesses and so on. So it depends on where you're taking me with that. But what I want to reinforce is that Barbados is a not no tax, but a very low tax jurisdiction.
Right. That's great. I want to ask a question. Let's say this is not a business of productivity, is more service oriented, so to speak. Let's say you probably know about it when they first started the Newton Universal Legendary Awards here. Well, the past 2 years, coronavirus had topsy-turvy everything. And this award, which we refer to as the Newlands Award, represent those from other countries who do excellence, be it doctors, lawyers, humanitarians, performing artists, and so forth. I started that in 2018, I think it was. Maureen was there. But the past 2 years, going into 3 years, we had a bad time. We didn't do it because of the virus. Let's say we want to do the Newton Universal Legendary Awards in Barbados, where we have to import the awards because those awards are like the Oscar-looking kind of awards. They already have. Sorry?
Why would you have to do that? Why would you have to do that?
Well, I don't know if Barbados produce those kind of awards or make those kind of trophies.
There you go.
Right.
I think you can find almost anything in Barbados.
Well, that's great. Because I think from my standpoint, I believe it could be good for the tourist industry as we recognize people globally. And I mean, the website can be found on nulas.org, nulas.org. But I would love to bring that to Barbados and have it as a form of promoting not only Barbados, but the nation that hosts this award ceremony every year. So Errol, what you should do then is come to the seminar on Saturday at Freedom House and have a one-on-one with our tourism people. But for something like that, I'll put you in touch with our National Cultural Foundation. Yes.
Also, and there are some other entities, probably Invest Barbados as well. Invest Barbados tends to focus on very high-end investments, but they're also there to help, and also our business ministry. So it could be a very good fit, driven, I would imagine, by the NCF, the National Cultural Foundation, because I believe that is your awards tend to be more along that line. And with our tourism, BTMI, our tourism entity, I'm sure you'll be able to work and put together a package where you can take down 100 people and have an all-inclusive package worked out for you, which would involve your ticketing, your hotel accommodation, some tours of our lovely country, have everything set up for you. Our tourism entity is actually quite good at packaging things. And I'm sure that with the right approach, you will be welcomed with open arms.
Well, beautiful. I remember when I first introduced this, the first two recipients from Barbados was, it was the Mighty Gabby who received one of the awards, and it was Desmond Haynes who also received one of the awards. Maureen Prescott. Sorry?
I said two of Barbados.
Yes. And Maureen, Maureen Prescott, she was there at a press conference that we launched down there probably 4 years ago, I think it was, to introduce the whole project. And then we officially host our first, well, you know about that one because I told you about it when we were going to do the Universal Award here in Newton. But as I said, the virus did everything, messed everything up. And I would love really to have this as something because it would draw a lot of attention to Barbados. It would generate some form of revenue to those who want to rent facilities to host the whole ceremony at. And I would love to promote it to that level, but in Barbados. So we get folks coming from here to go to Barbados.
And as I said, Errol, that is the kind of thing that we're interested in. Putting together packages. I think people still travel to Barbados because of the friendliness.
Yes.
And of course, the sun, sand, and sea, as we like to say. People tend to put down the sun, sand, and sea. Yes. But I think that the stats will tell you that wherever in the world people travel to, that is what they travel for.
Absolutely.
But, there's a lot more than just the sun, sand, and sea. And we're very interested in doing packages with cultural persons like yourself. We are interested in doing people who are interested in heritage tourism, as we call it. You would know that Barbados has very strong connections with the USA, even in Boston and Connecticut. Yes. And for those who are interested in those things, of course, there's a big Barbadian footprint in South Carolina and parts of North Carolina. So, and sports, whatever it is, you will find that we will find a way to make it happen.
Yes.
So,
one of the things I love too, considering we live in a world of crime, and I was doing a little research recently, Barbados is still considered a very safe place to come to enjoy your visits and your stays because we don't get crime targeting tourists, so to speak. And I was amazed at that because there are other countries like Belize, that a country that once used to be very low in crime is now at the epitome of crime. And when I saw that, I was shocked that we were considered one of the safest destinations when it comes to crime to go to. So if you want to address that and encouraging people, well, look, Barbados is the place, not only in terms of visits and for tourism, but for business, you name it, you can have their cultural experience. It's all there. Some of the most friendliest people you can ever want is a Barbadian. We see it every day in the stores, wherever you go, you can explain on it.
All of that is true. And that is why I said earlier, you cannot beat the combination of things that you can experience in Barbados. We're quite cosmopolitan as well. So if you want to do high-end shopping, you can do that in Barbados. If you want to interact with Barbadians and enjoy some outdoor cooking and a roast breadfruit and so on, we can do that as well. But you know, we just had this week more than 10,000 cricket lovers from Britain and Barbados, and you can go online and read the reviews. Right. What people speak to again is the friendliness, the way that they're embraced, and so on. At the end of the day, nothing beats that. Nothing beats a warm welcome. Nothing beats, the friendships and so on that develop through travel and so on. But we're ready with to get involved in the range of things, whether it's a wedding, whether you're Jewish and you want to have your bat mitzvah down there. We have
absolutely
one of the oldest synagogues.
I've heard
one of the oldest Jewish synagogues in Barbados. So whatever you're interested is you find something in Barbados is there for you to do.
Absolutely. And one of the things too we want to look at is education. There's one of the best places you can acquire education. A matter of fact, at one point, we were considered 100% literate. Our level of literacy was that high. And I think with University of West Indies and the Barbados Community College, if you want a solid foundation that you can launch and go anywhere in the world with when it comes to education, I think that Barbados is the foundation to start at. So if you're in some other country and you want to get away from the freezing cold and want to do your education, basic education, or just a bachelor's or whatever the case may be, I think Barbados is the place to go.
It is. Before I get to the education point, let me just say that one of the exciting things that happened during COVID in that dismal period was what is known as the Barbados Welcome Stamp, which was launched by our Prime Minister, and which, what the young people say, broke the internet. And what that did is that it allowed interesting persons, to go to Barbados during COVID. Barbados had very, very low numbers. Go to Barbados during COVID and work there initially for a year. But while they also worked there, they took their kids and so on. So all of that was part of the deal. All of that to say that there's the business component, there's the family component, there's the education component. Education means everything to Barbados, as you know. Right. Our only resource is our people, and education is the foundation of our progress. And one of the things that we're very interested, one of the reasons why we're interested in building stronger ties, they're quite strong now, but stronger ties with Boston and Massachusetts in general, is because Massachusetts is also known as the outstanding state for education in the USA. We're very interested in forming alliances with education institutions at any level. And we're interested in the biomedical field, the biomedical sciences, which is a huge thing in Massachusetts. And I should point out that one of the famous scholars at the famous MIT is Barbadian Professor Cardinal Ward, an electrical engineer who is big on robotics and has patents and that sort of thing. So that is also one of the reasons we're coming to Boston. Hopefully we will have some discussions along those lines. I don't want to preempt the process, but maybe after we finish with Boston for the weekend, we can come back and chat about what actually happened. But we have a few very exciting meetings set up to discuss at fairly high levels to discuss a few things. But we are very interested in any forging any education ties. I should also say, though, that for investment purposes, education is a big thing to invest in. And the University of the West Indies generally, but the Cave Hill campus in Barbados, is very interested in itself forming close ties with fellow institutions. But there's room for investment, a lot of investment in education through the Cave Hill campus. Two of the things, they're looking to build more student accommodation and fund it privately, and also a bigger